Agent May, isn't that the soldier from the freeway? The one that shot you in the throat? I thought so. Sick of it.
Okay, so last time we left off, we were at the UA Sports Festival, and we're picking up right where we left off, with the race. Deku would be able to hold his own much better, being able to smash his way through any robots, or have his AI take them over and shut them down, using his enhanced strength to better maneuver around obstacles such as the pit, and even using his AI to calculate how many explosives he would need to get past Todoroki and Bakugo and finish in first place. So pretty much similar to the actual second season. Next up is the cavalry battle, and like before, everyone gives Deku a death glare when he's shown to have the most points, but his AIs back him up, except for Theta, who hides behind Deku. And the cavalry battle goes pretty much the same, save for Deku's team getting more points and Bakugo trying to coax out O'Malley. And finally we get to the fights. The matchups are pretty much the same since everything went basically the same in the cavalry battle. Starting with the Deku vs Shinzo fight, it goes exactly the same, except instead of these spirits of one for all snapping Deku out of the mind control, it's his AIs which do it. But other than that, it goes exactly the same as in the anime. But with Todoroki's fight, it goes differently. Todoroki had pulled Deku aside earlier to ask him not if he was All Might's secret love child like in the anime, but if he was aware of what a quirk marriage was. You see, Todoroki was suspicious that Deku was the product of a quirk marriage such as himself, so he was curious to see what his situation was like compared to his own, and ends up spilling, like in the anime, his whole backstory. And now with Todoroki's fight, it begins with, like in the anime, Todoroki sends a massive blast of ice at Deku, who throws up a domed energy shield. The ice completely surrounds the shield, and for a few seconds nothing happens, but then the ice explodes away, revealing nothing. This is because Deku had turned invisible and was trying to sneak up on Todoroki. But Todoroki quickly realizes this and sends a massive wave of ice all around him, managing to freeze Deku in place and forcing him to become visible again. This also breaks down Deku's overshields, but Deku is able to break free from the ice and get close to Todoroki and throw a few hits and grab a hold of Todoroki. But while Deku's holding Todoroki, he feels as if he's absorbing something from Todoroki. And Todoroki also notices this, so he quickly tries to freeze the part of his body where Deku is grabbing him, so Deku quickly lets go and throws another punch, but briefly a shot of fire comes out of his fist when he throws the punch. That's when Deku realizes he was actually absorbing the fire part of Todoroki's quirk somehow. Realizing this, Deku gets an idea of how to get Todoroki to use his flames, and so he tells Todoroki if he won't use his flames, then Deku will just steal his flames and use them against him himself. And then he and his AIs give him the whole speech about it being his power and not his father's, which indeed, like in the anime, gets Todoroki to use his flames. Unfortunately, with Deku having used all of his energy on his abilities, this leads to him being knocked out of the ring and Todoroki wins the match. And now we move on to the internship arc, and after seeing Deku seemingly take one of Todoroki's quirks, All Might is now even more curious about how these powers came to him, and so he decides to give Deku the recommendation to go see Gran Torino to see if he can suss out if All For One has something to do for this. While they are all quite hesitant to accept help from All Might, considering their past, Deku and his AIs come to the conclusion that the mentor of the #1 hero would be someone who would be quite useful to train under. So they accept and they go to Gran Torino's place, where they find him on the floor in a pile of blood. Deku freaks out, but then Delta informs him that it is just sauce and not in fact blood. They meet, get to talking, and Gran Torino quickly deduces that All For One is not involved in Deku's life at all. They end up talking, and Gran Torino tells Deku that he needs to mind his body's energy levels better, as that is why he lost in the tournament, and they get to work. They get to talking about when Deku's quirk had manifested, and Gran Torino brings up the prospect of quirk awakenings, where if a body is put under stress for a certain amount of time, its quirk can then alter and grow itself to become more powerful than it once was. So Gran Torino theorizes that given how random quirks can be, and we all know that quirks indeed are random, very, very random, he brings up the fact that it may be possible for a quirkless person to develop a quirk if the body was put under enough stress. Though he and Izuku both rationalize that this is ultimately theoretical. And now we move on to the incident with the hero killer Stain and the Nomus attacking. Like in the anime, Deku was able to save Ida from Stain, but in this version he was able to use his temporal distortion and cloaking to sneak up on the hero killer and with his super strength punch him away. In this version, instead of his more light hero uniform from the main series, he's wearing his Mark 1 armor, which is heavier, which means he can't move around as well, but he is able to take more of Stain's hits without worrying about the blood. Though eventually Stain does manage to paralyze him, which is where Todoroki comes in and saves him. After a long fight and figuring out that Stain's quirk can only leave someone paralyzed depending on their blood type for a certain amount of time, they are able to eventually capture Stain. But that being said, while that was going on, the Nomus were attacking the pro heroes, and some of them were showing unusual behaviour, such as seeming to try and imitate speech and a very familiar laugh. And now we move on to the final exam arc, where Bakugo and Deku once again go up against All Might. As you can imagine, Bakugo refuses to work with Deku, which leads to both of them being absolutely destroyed by All Might, until Deku pulls Bakugo aside and into the alleyway, where Bakugo refuses to work with Deku because of his past rivalry with O'Malley, and claims that the only reason that Deku got to where he was because of the power of his AI and not his own ability. So then Sigma makes himself known and makes a deal with Bakugo by playing on his need to win, by pointing out the fact that if he is so weak to allow his petty rivalry to cloud him to the prospect of victory, then that would make him far weaker than Deku ever was. So Deku and Bakugo form the Uneasy Alliance and take on All Might. Deku uses the gauntlet like in the anime, but thanks to his enhanced strength he doesn't get as much blowback from it. So the two start gunning it for the exit, but All Might easily catches up. Deku is able to avoid some of his hits thanks to his time slowing ability, but he's quickly overwhelmed. And that's when Delta gives Deku an idea. See, Deku still knows about All Might's weakness, so by slowing down time and using his enhanced strength to deliver one punch to his weakened point, he's able to grab Bakugo and make an escape, where they are both able to finally pass the the final exam. I am not good at talking.
Okay, buddy, I'll take it from here. Deku and the rest wanna head to the mall to gather supplies for the training camp when he's accosted by Tomura Shigaraki, who wraps his hand around Deku's already damaged neck and threatens to disintegrate him if he makes a move. Shigaraki wants to know why he's no more acting abnormally and insight on what Stain had said to him when he tried recruiting him. Sigma Delta Theta Gamma and the twins appear and explain how Stain was inspired by All Might and stuck to his beliefs. However, when Tomura sees them, a glint of recognition flashes across his face, but then Uraraka shows up and he's forced to make his escape. And that brings us to the end of this part. The main takeaways are: Deku has the ability to steal people's abilities. O'Malley has infected the Nomu, and Shigaraki has some sort of understanding of Midoriya and his abilities. So yeah, that's the end of this part. If you're wondering why this video took so long to come out, well, let's just say the big guy is not the best at talking, hence why we are here.
Yeah, so see you knuckleheads in 3 years with part 4.